Well, Chris just asked a great question, and that is, what is the difference between the 3 level that's behind you and the 2 level that I'm looking at right now?
The 2 level is more of a focus on growing plants, and it has the tank. You could either put 1 or 2 tanks underneath and grow your finfish, but it doesn't include the duckweed growing, and it doesn't include either the deep water trough or the trough for growing shrimp and crawfish and other fish. So if you've got a smaller fish production operation, this is ideal. For your capital investment, it's a lower price cost, so you can increase your surface area, you can increase your growing area without as much of the cost.
Now, what can you grow here, David? What kind of things can you grow? Can you grow vegetables and fruits and all kinds of other stuff?
You can grow just about anything you possibly could want to grow.
Wheatgrass, tomatoes.
Microgreens. You can grow heavy feeding plants like tomatoes, bell peppers, melons, and things of that sort. That's also a feature that you don't get with typical aquaponics, because the fish alone don't produce as much nutrients that are necessary for most of the heavier feeding plants. But because we're providing all of our own nutrients, and we're doing it by extracting the nutrients from other plants, leaching it essentially, we're able to supply all those nutrients. And plus we add biochar to the grow beds, because this gives us a continuous source of otherwise mined minerals like potassium, calcium, magnesium. And it's a burnt wood, so it's a sequestered carbon, which is ideal for the environment, because now we can take carbon out of the atmosphere and stabilize it, and then make room for more trees to absorb more carbon out of the atmosphere. But yeah.
How often with the growing material do we need to replace, replenish? How do we work through that?
Yeah, the growing material. I mean, some people say that after a period of time you're going to have a lot fewer, a lot more. Your pores are going to get clogged up,
right.
And the carbon's going to get a little clogged up. But you can refresh it you can rinse it, you can remove it and clean it if you have to. But I've been using media similar to this for the last 3 or 4 years, and there's just no evidence. We're not even having to clean our beds. The way we set up the filtration system in these, it's flushing itself, and the nutrients are always available. Once we add worms to this, so that you get a nice ecosystem with worms producing their microbes, providing their mycorrhizamal organisms, and the worms will end up in a root ball if there's ever any fogginess of the dead roots or fish waste or plant waste gets in the beds. You can rely on the worms to help liquefy it, break it up, and also add their little microbes.
That was even a sidelight that I didn't even think of, was the earthworms or the redworms, or the piece from there that you can enter into your own system that can give you another great opportunity.
Well, what we're trying to do is take all the best elements of nature and create an artificial environment that facilitates hosts them so that we can optimize their performance, so they do all the work.
To enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Yes.
When you go to plant this, you just pull the medium aside and put like we're planting in a normal soil garden.
Yes, exactly. Or you direct sow, like you would direct sow into a grow bed. You can do plant cuttings, directly into the medium. The other thing we do, in addition to providing nutrients from our grasses and urine and food waste, is that we also improve the fertility of the beds. In addition to the biochar and the porosity of the stones. This, by the way, is recycled glass, very porous, also great use of glass. All of these things have been given careful consideration, but what other things we can do to the beds is we can add microorganisms that are rhizomal beneficial. So what we do is we colonize rhizomal microbes either from wooded areas where you get a lot of the fungi, or from grassy areas where you have a lot of the bacteria. We can actually grow those, colonize them with just a little Korean method of farming, and cultivate them, and then put them into a kind of a cake of molasses and mud and these organisms, and put them in a container and actually store them for an extended period of time, but use those to seed the beds with live microorganisms.
David, now you told me, I heard you say, this is as simple as running a dishwasher, I think as you said.
Yeah.
So what is the amount of time that you'd have to spend per day working with this?
Well, I mean, it's really kind of, it's so simple that it's a little embarrassing. I mean, you don't have to do a lot at all. I mean, instead of, the biggest labor involved in gardening, as an organic gardener will tell you, particularly if you're doing organic gardening, the labor is in the development of your nutrients, the application of your nutrients, the irrigation, and the turning of the soil, the weeding, and that sort of thing. All of that is gone. All of that is eliminated. In fact, these bags can go from your kitchen in a disposable container. It goes right into the tank, and that therefore eliminates the composting, the aerating of the compost, the shoveling of it onto a wheelbarrow, the moving it to the soil, the turning it into the soil. All of that's gone. So what else is left? Well, seeding, smiling,
harvesting.
And harvesting.
Now, with this triple layer behind you, how much tilapia and crayfish could you actually go in, say, a year's time?
Well, that deserves a lot of consideration, because the problem with much agriculture and much aquaculture is the overcrowding, the industrialization of these livestock. And if you're trying to produce a lot of fish, you can always crowd your fish into an environment of a 1 pound of fish per 2 gallons of water ratio. And they try to do that in aquaponics quite often to support all the growing area, or to have an abundant harvest. But when you crowd too many fish, you get fish disease, you get stress. And fish are not a huge valued crop, not anything like microgreens, wheatgrass, or high nutrient foods. So, while these tanks each hold 310 gallons, 315 gallons of water at their operating level, so you've got about 750 gallons of water. Conceivably, you could put 350, 375 pounds of fish in there, or raise that many. But we're interested in also creating an aquatic environment that is more like a natural environment. So in fact, we're going to be installing into these tanks water grasses in mats that actually drop down into the bottom of the tank, that will give fish a habitat, that will give them a natural food cycle that allows, surface area for bacteria and algae to bind to, and also as a hiding. It can be used for hiding for baby fish and for shrimp and crawfish if you're polyculturing. But our goal is to get a healthy fish, to have a continuous output of fish, and not to really force this effort on the fish that we suffer if they die, they suffer if they're overcrowded and overstressed, and fish can become something of a convenience that you can take out of there every so often. Getting into the culture of fish, you have another, it can be a challenging element of your operation if you've got to stage your fish growth, and you've got to have a source for your fish, and you've got to process all your fish. While you can crowd them, and it's a nice environment for moving water in a current, like a stream in this setting, we're more interested in less quantity of fish that we can raise, but a better health and a better quality of life for those fish.
Now, in regards to the vegetation, how much vegetation could you grow, depending on, I guess, it's what it is?
Yeah, well, there you're looking at something similar to hydroponics and aquaponics. Only you're not relying on manufactured fertilizers or manufactured fish feed. And so you can grow intensively, you can grow plants. We're going to be doing some studies here this summer. We've made some contact with folks at UGA, the Agriculture and Horticulture Department. They want to send a graduate fellow out to support us in a sort of an expansive research project that we're undertaking. And so we'll know more about the productivity, but we think we can optimize the growth beyond what you might expect from hydroponics and aquaponics, because once you start feeding plants with the nutrients of other plants that have been leached out, instead of dry composted and lost to the atmosphere, you get vitamins that are uptaken by the plants, you get growth hormones, and these things, when they're available to the plants, in addition to the necessary macro minerals and nutrients and trace elements, when you start adding these other things, then the effort of the plant to grow is reduced to actually producing fruit and growing more in size and growing more quickly. And it doesn't have to manufacture the vitamins as frequently. It doesn't have to do a lot of things now that it's got a source of nutrients that looks more like everything they could possibly want. You know, all the plants that a plant needs are contained in another plant. If you could just extract them and get them into that other plant as effectively as possible without losing it, without too much labor, then we think you might be able to see some much better growth than you would with chemical hydroponics or the minimal nutrients you get in aquaponics.
What about in man-hours of setting this unit up? How long does it take?
Ken could tell you that a little bit more accurately. He's got all the numbers on it, but you know, in fact, we're going to be looking at that this week since we've just completed this setup. But essentially, I mean, it's been 2 or 3 guys on a daily basis for about 3 weeks putting this entire project together.
And that includes the greenhouse.
Yep,
and
the greenhouse,
all the
the ground level, the site development, and that sort of thing.
I know it's like house. Do you have to have a greenhouse?
No, in fact, I kind of think it might be smart not to use a greenhouse.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, for one, we've built these things so that you can actually put a greenhouse on top of this.
Ah, self-contained units.
Self-contained. So I mean, right here we put a little riser. Yeah, we could put polycarbonate like the sidewalls.
The sidewalls.
That can be treated as a cold frame in the winter with a sliding door that opens up. It could be to extend your growing season. It could also be, you know, maybe the sides removed and you leave the top on for summer growth, and maybe add a shade cloth to it. So the greenhouse, and I in fact am encouraging them not to put the cover on this greenhouse until it gets cold, because the cost of operating a greenhouse is quite high. You got the heating, especially in the south. I mean, the cooling in the south, the expensive cooling a greenhouse can be a killer. And the ventilation of that greenhouse. So a greenhouse it will give you climate control. It's pretty important if you have a big operation. You want to control the climate for working and this and that. But there are also other ways of protecting your plants. I mean, you don't want, if you're going to get a lot of rain, you got a big rainy season, you get plants, you get diluted water and things. It's not as hard as aquaponics or hydroponics where you got to keep adding chemicals or fish. You know, you got to re-up your somehow, but you can add more nutrients pretty easily.
Through your medium bags, whether it be I'm mowing the lawn.
Yep.
And putting that in there for my household waste.
Yep. I'm
putting in the bags, so we get 2 inches overnight, I put another bag.
Yes.
That's simple.
Yes. That's it.
Nice stuff.